Hey everyone, welcome to GardenFork Radio. It's the eclectic DIY podcast. We're the audio companion to my video channel on YouTube. It's also called GardenFork. And today, longtime GardenFork viewer and contributor Jimmy is with us. Hey man.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm great. Giant storm here. It's a nor'easter. It might even have a name. I guess they give names to storms now, but
it is.
Yeah.
It has a name. It's Stella.
Well, Stella's kicking our butt right now. Not as bad as the weather guys made it sound yesterday, but still the city is shut down.
We were supposed to have snow here Sunday morning. They talked about it a week in advance here in North Carolina. And they said it was going to be, you looked at the weather, it was going to be almost in the teens. Sunday morning, you're going to wake up, it's going to be snowing. My next door neighbor, he works for a temporary agency. He said people were calling off work on Friday, saying they were not coming in Sunday. And I said, those are the people you need to fire. And then we got nothing. It was gorgeous. It got up to like 52 Sunday, and if you were in the car driving with your windows up, it got so hot you had to roll your windows down.
Yeah, I don't want to cast ill against the weather forecasters, but the local news stations make a large amount of their money during weather events because since more people watch the local news, they get to charge more for their commercials because more eyeballs saw the TV commercials. So their inclination is to hype the weather more to get more people to watch earlier in the week, about this impending storm. And that's where they make their money. And now that it's storming, the weather guys are kind of weather people, there's women and men, are dialing back their forecasts from 18 inches to maybe 6 inches in the city here. So,
well, you gotta make hay when the sun's not shining, I guess. Not every day you get you don't get an OJ car chase every day where you can jack up your rates.
That's beautiful. So you are mainly your day-to-day in the social media world is a podcast called The Book Guys.
Yeah, The Book Guys, there's Paul Alves. He's the guy with all the equipment, and he's the coordinator, and he's been the host since forever. He used to do it with two other guys back in the day, and I came across his podcast because we both listened to another podcast and got together, and I came on the show once, and then I came on enough where one of the other guys finally thought, okay, now I don't feel so bad about quitting. And then he quit, and then pretty soon it was just me and Paul, and then me and Paul and another guy, and one of the guys' father, Robert Ballister, who's on Twit, he was with us for a while. He's still in some of our old artwork, and Professor Alan Middleton over in Ohio, he started up his own podcast after being on ours about comic books, and now we picked up Craig Damlow. He's out on the West Coast. He used to do a podcast called the Singularity Podcast in like 2006 when the iPod was brand new. The iPod video came out. I was trying to put a bunch of stuff on my iPod because I was going to Vegas, and I wanted to listen to whatever, and I'm like, oh, podcasts, these are free. So yeah. I started listening to his, and lo and behold, out of all those people, he's the only one I've actually met in person. He came up to Washington, D.C. for work 2 summers ago. I drove up, and we hung out, and that's the Book Guys now. It's quite a bit of change, and we're sort of in a hiatus between, we're calling them seasons, reformatting the show, trying to gather a bunch of author interviews and stuff so that we can put together, I guess, a more polished show instead of
what's that
just
like?
Winging it. Yeah, I know. And that's not my forte. I'm like, yeah, you handle that. Let me know when I need to be there. But this is what I like right here.
Yeah, we correspond from time to time, and then I was like, hey, it's time to get you back on the show. And I've been a guest on the Book Guys podcast.
Yes, you have. It's incestuous, the podcast world.
It's quite an experience because your cohort loves to press lots of sound effects buttons while you're talking.
I think it's the only reason he got in the game.
He really just wants to run the board at a radio station.
Yeah. It's like Adam Curry. He was on MTV, and now he does the No Agenda show. and it's all about the soundboard, and it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's continually new ones, and it keeps it lively. Have you wanted to talk a little bit about what is the Wheel of Topics?
Well, I just noticed on your Twitter feed you were talking about the Wheel of Topics, and I'm like, what's that all about?
That's been a long-standing idea for another podcast where it's sort of like this here. 2, 3, 4 people get together, and we're going to actually build a real wheel like you see at the carnival or at the casino. And, it spins and lands on a topic, and we talk about that. That sort of went by the wayside, and we got a digital sound effect, and probably the absolute best show intro music. And the podcast just hasn't come together, but that's what the Wheel of Topics is. It's in the ether.
All right. Well, GardenFork Radio and GardenFork the video show took months to get together. I mean, I thought about it for a really long time before hitting the go button. And I think with a lot of people, it's like that. And I don't fault anyone for not hitting the go button right away, because there is a gestation there that I think needs to happen. But my other thought is that sometimes you just need to start doing it, and I always learn by my mistakes, and my mistakes are fairly public. But you just got to start going.
Well, that's true. That's true, and it's not true. It depends on the person. Yep. For you, if you didn't just start doing it, you may have never done it. Other people, they'll start doing it, and they're just blown backwards by their mistakes and all of what can become overwhelming, I think. Then if it's something you say you're going to do every week, pretty soon, then it's like, oh, we'll do it every 2 weeks. Then you skip a show, and then you pod fade.
Yep. Well, my thing was I wasn't going to promise a schedule. So I try and do it every week, but it's usually about 3 out of every 4 weeks a month I get a show out. And I think people are used to that kind of, oh, Eric's got a new show out. It's not like, oh, it's Friday, there's a new show. Oh, it's like, it just kind of shows up.
Now, I'm probably going to sound a little silly here, but this is the venue to bring it up. What happened to the GardenFork video podcast? That just all went to YouTube?
It's coming back, actually. This is the official announcement.
Are you serious?
So there was a media company called Blip TV. This was one of the startups, one of the first video streaming startups. It was a competitor to YouTube. And when I started GardenFork, I actually started putting the videos on Blip TV first, not YouTube. And Blip TV would automatically upload them to iTunes for free. And I didn't have to pay for any server space. I didn't have to pay for them to tweak the feed. I would just upload it to Blip. It would play on the Blip site. It would play in GardenFork. They had a beautiful video player that I could embed on the GardenFork page. And it would upload to iTunes for free.
And that's how they went out of business.
Right.
Well,
and then I put some videos on YouTube, and I was like, I don't really know about this YouTube thing. But then YouTube started sending me checks.
Yeah.
And iTunes doesn't send me a check. So I was kind of following the money. And boy, this is kind of a long story, but you asked.
No. I mean, I really wanted to know, and I'm sure other people were wondering.
And you used to watch it on your iPad, if I remember correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
iPod,
how
and then iPhone. Yeah.
So then it was kind of, I would have to hand code the RSS feed. It's an iTunes compliant RSS feed to get it onto the iTunes app. Well, it's now an app. So it just got to be one more thing I had to do, and I wasn't very good at it, and I'm not real good at following through on stuff. I pay attention to kind of what's in front of me. So then it seemed the return on investment was kind of dwindling. I wasn't getting a lot of feedback from people from the iTunes feed. I was hearing mainly from YouTube people, because on iTunes you can't leave comments.
True.
It's kind of it's a shotgun, and I don't hear anything back from anybody. I get some emails, and so I just stopped uploading it, because I bought this app to do the feed, and I would have to type in all this stuff, and I had to put all the videos on my own server, and I had to point the RSS feed to the server. And I mean, I can do it, but I was already uploading to iTunes and posting it on the GardenFork, uploading it to YouTube, who would send me a check, and I was like, oh, I'm going to focus on YouTube. But recently, I figured out an affordable way, and because I have a Patreon page now, I have monthly contributors to GardenFork. I'm going to pay and buy I'm going to pay for it to be on iTunes. I'm going to use Libsyn, which hosts our audio podcast. I'm going to create another account on Libsyn, and it will upload the videos to iTunes again fairly soon.
So removing some of the barriers to getting it done.
Right. All I have to do is upload it to. I already upload the GardenFork radio podcast to Libsyn. It's super simple. I just type in a couple things and hit go, and it sends it to Stitcher, iTunes, and the GardenFork radio podcast is now on iTunes as of yesterday. So, wow, a Pandora's box you've opened by one question. But
there are answers I want to know, and I was kind of embarrassed, and maybe I would find out. We had it over in this other place for like a year. No wonder nobody's listening. I guess now I just found out why.
Well, I've noticed that some of my cohorts. I belong to a Facebook group of other YouTubers that are trying to make a go of it, and they're starting to post their videos in addition to YouTube on iTunes. And I'm like, well, I used to do that. Why are you doing that? And it's basically about getting more eyeballs. And then if a brand comes to me, like Troy Built is my current sponsor, someone says, hey, I want to do something with you, I can say, well, I have a YouTube audience and I have an iTunes audience over here, and here's how many more eyeballs you'll get because I'm on iTunes. So it will help. I'm hoping it will help pay the bills. And I also realized I didn't want to have all my eggs in one basket. I don't want to be just on YouTube because it's unlikely to happen. But what if YouTube went bankrupt? Or what if someone just turned off the spigot on YouTube? My videos wouldn't be anywhere else except,
Yeah,
so yeah, they're going back on.
They can pull your funding for something they don't like that you said. It's YouTube is. I guess YouTube it's owned by Google.
Yes.
Or is it a separate entity?
It's a subcorp. It's basically it's its own company, but it's wholly owned by Google.
Okay.
And the revenue from that has been declining over the years. I make about the same money I do now. I have so many more eyeballs now, and I make about the same money I make from 5 years ago.
Well, that's just there's so many different ways to consume media now. It's all just getting spread out.
Yeah. What I do love is that, and this is a shameful pitch here, but the Patreon thing has been great because it's kind of like NPR where you become a monthly contributor. So people will contribute. They're like $3 a month, I think, is the lowest one. So that's $36 a year, which is like a magazine subscription. And I put out at least 4 videos a month for that. And on the Patreon, my Patreon page, once a week, I'll post some interesting behind the scenes thing. And then once a month, I post a behind the scenes video, kind of like a vlog of what I'm up to. And that is a private video that's emailed just to my patrons, the GardenFork patrons. So a little plug there.
I've never signed up for Patreon, and a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, that has been like a model that they've went to try to generate some income and keep themselves going. If I like a podcast, I'm the kind of guy who just one day I hear something and they say Patreon, and I just like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go PayPal them $5.
Oh yeah, totally can do that. We take PayPal too. That happens actually a couple of times a month, and I have to put them on an own email list because I kind of think I should give them the behind the scenes stuff too, because the amount of money they give is very similar to the yearly contribution of a Patreon person. So, yeah,
Space Rocket History podcast. They're always talking about Patreon, and what they do is this guy. If you donate every year, you get like a badge and it's just a fake thing on his website. But you donate at this level, and he gives you like your Apollo level or your
right.
blistering hot sun level, whatever. And yeah, but Patreon, is it similar in how much money that they take? Like PayPal, they still pinch a little bit out for the service. Is it less? Is it?
It's a little more because there's a credit card fee, and then they take a couple of points. But I think it ends up to be about 9% of the donation, and that's fine.
One of the problems with PayPal is, and like Adam Curry's No Agenda show, they have people that have like a recurring thing going through PayPal, and PayPal will just shut it off and say, "This looks weird. Why is this happening?"
Yeah,
and you never just don't know it happened.
Yeah, it's an imperfect system, but some people are comfortable with the Patreon. Some people are comfortable with PayPal, and in any of it, I love it because sometimes I sit here alone in a room and I hit the send button, and I don't know. I mean, GardenFork Radio, about 2,000 people download it every time, so and that's not a big number, but considering the amount of patrons I have for that 2,000 people, I think it's pretty amazing. So. I'm happy.
I'm growing tobacco again this year.
You are? Well, that's actually how we first started talking, is you were like, I'm growing tobacco. And then you sent me a video and some pictures. How's that working out?
Well, it's too early. The plants aren't ready yet. But you can't plant it every year because it really strips the soil of a lot of nutrients. That's why, like here in North Carolina, you'll see somebody growing tobacco in a field that you drive by every day or on the weekend. And then you'll drive by that same time of year next year, and there's not tobacco there. There's soybeans, or there's probably not corn, but the wheatgrass, or they have to crop rotation, like going back to Native Americans. It's still doing that, but I've got some new raised beds and a new configuration in my garden, and I've got a 6-foot fence all the way around it with 2 feet high rabbit fence around it as of this winter. Because I found out that the rabbits, as big and puffy as they are, they're probably about as wide as a golf ball.
Yeah.
And you slip in there, and boy, do they love to eat sweet potato vines and strawberries. And, I was wondering, what is going on? Is it squirrels? But no. I saw a rabbit in there last year, and I've got actually a screen door that you open up to get into my garden. And the rabbit saw me, and he stopped like they do. And I started chasing after him. He went one way to the other, boom, boom. And he couldn't get out. He was actually getting in underneath of the door. And he ran as fast as he could and squeezed through the door like Wile E. Coyote or something. He just popped out the other side. And I said, well, that's it. I got to put up some rabbit fence. But the tobacco I'm going to grow this year just for fun.
Is there a particular variety? Do you grow it from seeds, or do you buy starter plants? Or
I think if you wanted to grow it from seeds, you'd have to have a lot of knowledge and equipment. They grow it in these big, like long, like the greenhouse that are the hoop house. But the big ones that you can walk through, and I think they grow them hydroponically. And as the plants come up, they have this machine that sits on rails. It's basically a lawnmower that runs the entire length of the room and cuts the tops off of the plants to make them bush out.
Uh-huh.
So I get the plants. The last time I got them, they were in a cut-off Sprite bottle with a little water in the bottom, and you plant those things, and you've never seen a plant that takes root and starts to grow so fast. It's just amazing. And when you go to try to tear it out of your garden at the end of the year, it'll pull up the dirt for like 4 square feet. Not 4 square feet, probably 8 square feet. But the variety I'm going to grow this year is either going to be number 21, which is some hybrid I don't like. I like the bright leaf tobacco, which is the long sort of hanging leaves that was designed to grow in the red clay soil here in North Carolina, or burley, which is kind of sort of grows straight up and down, like the leaves sort of point at a 45-degree angle up. It's really pretty, but there's not a lot of people here that grow that. It's more of a Virginia variety, so hoping for bright leaf.
Well, I remember the pictures, they were really long and slightly elliptical.
Yes.
Now, would you use that in a pipe, or would you roll it as like a hand-rolled cigarette or a cigar? Or
Well, I still have some of the first tobacco I ever grew, and I have it vacuum sealed in a bag, and it's in my safety deposit box. I don't know why.
Thank you for sharing that.
But I've got some other little bits of it in some cans and stuff. And like, matter of fact, here's some right here that's in an old cough drop can. And when I open this up, it's beautiful and yellow. And you take a deep breath of it, and I smell that. I smell that summer.
Yeah.
It's like, it smells like candy and vanilla, and it's not like anything you probably ever smelled. I think if a woman had a scent like this, she would attract a certain type of male.
Huh. I remember my dad smoked, and when he would first light up a cigarette, it had kind of a vanilla-y smell to it.
Yeah, if it's been a long time ago, it's probably tobacco that hasn't been, adulterated so much with all these chemicals and different things and different kinds of paper to make it burn a certain way. But what tobacco has to be cured. That's what all the old barns around here, you'll see they'll light a fire in the bottom of this barn. They'll have the tobacco all tied up on sticks hanging in the top, and it dries it, but it's weird. It turns it into something totally different. Instead of a leaf, it becomes sort of mushy. You can squish it in your hand.
Huh.
And I didn't have anything to do that process, so I just hung it up. And it slowly dried, and I would mist it. And it sort of got, like when it would rain, it would get where it was real squishy, and you could just squeeze it in your hand like a sponge. But then if it got dry for several days, if you touch it, it would just break like
powdery.
Just like, oh yeah, you'd just hit it with your head, and a big chunk would blow off of it. But I've made cigarettes. I've made pipe tobacco. I actually made like snuff, the kind that used to suck up in your nose.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tried that. I've made insect killer out of it.
Oh, that'll work. Yeah, the nicotine in it. Yeah.
Yeah, steep that in water and sprayed that on some stuff. I don't think you want to spray it on things that you're going to eat, but it worked really well on around the lawn and places where my dog doesn't go. Just trying to learn.
I'm wondering now. I'd like to look it up and see just what kind of a nitrogen impact. I mean, how much nitrogen does tobacco pull out of the soil? It sounds like it's huge.
Yeah, it has to be, because they get gigantic. You'll see tobacco out in the fields here, and a lot of those are topped where they don't let them grow up.
Right.
And if you look in a 50-acre field of tobacco, you might see 10,000 plants, maybe more, and maybe 15 of them have flower heads on them.
Right, they're topping them so they bush out because they want the energy to go into the leaf rather than the flower.
Yes. Well, I let mine go to flower because they attract more insects than just about any. Well, different insects, but a lot of the hummingbirds love it, and the butterflies, and some of the biggest, ugliest worms. I know you've seen a tomato hornworm.
Yeah.
But whatever it was that grows on the tobacco it's even bigger.
I think it's called the tobacco hornworm, actually.
All right. I like to send them on the bird food tray.
Yes. Chickens like them too.
Yes, and it brings in some varmints or different pests to your garden that you wouldn't normally have. But I also like to do it to educate people. They go, oh gosh, you're growing tobacco, and you'd be surprised how many people ask if I have a license to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, no. And there's absolutely no limit to how much tobacco you can grow for personal use in the United States.
That's interesting. That's kind of like, because actually I think home brewing wasn't legal, not too long ago,
No, No, it's not. And even if you have a commercial operation here in North Carolina anyway, I think you're limited to 25,000 gallons, or I don't know if it's gallons or kegs, how they measure, but there's a limit before you have to start going through a distributor.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just some type of racket that they got to, put a middleman in there and take money. But,
take money from the home brewer.
Yeah. I mean, here's a little funny question. How many people a year do you think die from tobacco in the United States?
Ooh, I don't know. It's
a lot.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot. I don't know. Probably 100,000, maybe more, maybe 500,000 from lung cancer and different ailments. But there's no limit to how much tobacco you can grow, and I don't think I've ever heard of anybody dying from marijuana. But yeah, you can't have one single plant.
Yeah. There's some contrast in life.
Yeah, and just the fact when I grow tobacco, it starts conversations, and I like to antagonize people.
I can imagine your neighbors. Oh, it's that Jimmy guy.
Yeah, well, my neighbor, he's the one that had to try the cigarettes that I made because I don't smoke, so it's just. But I do plan this year to try and cure it, and I've seen some people that have done it, like in an old get like an old refrigerator for free.
Yep.
And people have turned that into a curing thing, and I think that's going to be my summer project to be ready for picking this fall.
I'm actually talking with my neighbor who's a chef about curing meats in an old refrigerator, and I have the plans from a blog whose name I'm blanking on right now, but about hacking an old refrigerator with a new thermostat and a humidifier into a meat curing box.
It's with an old fridge, it's like all the work's already done for you.
Yeah, it's insulated and it has a compressor to make things cool. And then you can just add the humidity with a simple humidifier, one of those ones you plug in the wall.
So you're actually using a working fridge and using the cooling part for the curing.
Because you want it about 45, 50 degrees. And I think it's 70% humidity.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
No, I've been to the airport, and that's as far as I wanted to go.
Well, if you go into New York, at least the last time I was there, they have a restaurant there, and in the middle of the casino, there's a big glass room, sort of like the Apple Store in New York City, and it's filled with meat. And it's all dry, aged meat that's hanging in there aging, and you can walk by and see it, and they'll cut steaks off of it. I guess that's sort of what they're doing. Just their refrigerator is clear.
Yeah, we're going to do it in the basement because I have this old refrigerator in my basement, and I'm like, I'm either going to throw this out or I'm going to make something with it.
It's funny. I feel like I've been in your basement. Seen your workbench and all this and that over the years. But are you going to get back into doing any more truck repair videos? Because now that I have a Ford F-150, you haven't done a Ford F-150 video in a long time.
I drive a minivan now.
Oh, gosh, you're going backwards in life.
Well, it's like a pickup truck with a hardtop, I think.
Oh, that's right. I guess you got all your painting equipment and everything in it, right?
Yeah, and also with it's a lot easier to drive the dogs around in a minivan than it is a truck. So...
Yeah, my dog's 10 years old now. When I pull the tailgate down on my truck, first thing he does, he looks at me, and he wants to know, can I jump in? But he's getting so old now that if he just off the cuff decides to jump on it, he can't make it. I've got to get him backed up 10 feet and make him take a straight run at it, and then he's fine. So, I'm probably going to have a fold down little set of stairs pretty soon.
Yeah, a dog ramp is in my future, so...
I've seen people that have them that sit at the foot of their beds.
Yeah?
Online. Yeah. I don't know any of these people. I don't want to know these people.
Well, okay, in the beginning, you talked about the Space Rocket History podcast, and you are one of these arbiters of podcasts. So before we end today, are there a couple, 3 podcasts you'd like to suggest for people?
Well, space rocket history is one that's done by a guy named Michael Annis, and he's actually in the foothills here of North Carolina. He's maybe 50, 60, 70 miles away from here. Never met him, but it's really interesting. And right now, he's been doing it for years. And if you're listening to a podcast about space rocket history, you want to hear about the Apollo moon landing.
Yep.
And he hasn't done it yet. So he started out and just started stretching it. And then, one of the guys that landed on the moon, he dies, and they do a special show, and then they get off on this tangent, and they start talking about Russian stuff. But he's coming right up to it now. So this is a good time to get in and listen to Space Rocket History Podcast, because you won't have to wait as long as me to hear about Apollo 11. Another podcast that I just came across through a comment on Reddit, there's always somebody, what's your favorite podcast? And I always scroll through and get past all the same NPR crap. And then I get all the way down, and somebody talked about one called the Dollop. Dollop is what I put in and found it. And it's two comedians that talk about something from history. And it could be really anything. And one guy knows what it is, and the other guy has no idea what the guy's getting at. And he'll like beat around the bush and talk about all this interesting stuff. And then somewhere near the end of it, you find out, oh gosh, it's D.B. Cooper, the guy that jumped out of the plane with the money. And, and the fact that they're comedians, it's maybe NSFW, but I was really taken for it. And the first thing I started doing was looking through the back catalog, trying to find, all the really things that interested me a lot. And now I'm just about ready to start listening to anything because, they're pretty hilarious.
I think word of mouth is one of the best ways that I've found about podcasts. So I always like to ask people about that.
Yeah, there's so many. Just can't get through. I'm listening to another one called No Excuses. It's just two people talking about Mad Men, the TV show, going through episode by episode, or maybe in 2-episode chunks. And one person, the dude, he's seen it before, and he's watching it again. And the girl, it's Mike and Jenny, that's their name. She's never seen it, so they're watching it together and then talking about every episode. And I've probably watched through Mad Men 6-7 times, pieces here and there. If I'm just killing time or want to sit down and eat, I'll throw on Mad Men while I eat because I know I like it, and I always catch something new. And they're always bringing up some other things. I'm like, I've seen that episode 10 times, and I don't remember that. I'm like, wow.
We watched The Crown on Netflix, and we watched it all the way through. And then I thought, there's some of this I didn't quite get. So I found there's a bunch of blogs that will recap, and also podcasts too, that will recap certain shows. And I found actually on Entertainment Weekly a really well-written recap of each of the episodes of The Crown. And so my wife and I would read, we're going to watch episode 2, so we would read the episode 2 recap and then watch that episode again with the closed captioning turned on.
I was going to say the closed captioning.
And it's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here I missed. So,
yeah, you just can't really just hit rewind every time somebody says a word you don't know. But that word may be the key to the whole episode.
And I'm dumb as a rock anyway about subtlety, So at a party, someone will say something, and you're like, "Oh, you didn't?" I'm like, "I didn't know." I just said this thing.
One other thing I wanted to get off my chest is this little fence that I built outside.
The rabbit fence?
No, it's just a privacy fence because behind my storage building here is where my fire pit is, and it's like the most private area of my yard.
Because you live on a corner, right?
I do. I live on a corner, so there's no privacy. So I put up this fence to block off the street from where the fire pit is. And a few years ago, I put up a fence, and I drove in posts, just anything that looked like a 4x4 into the ground. And, actually post hole dug, put them in, and then I'd cut down some trees. What's the worst tree in the world to plant?
Forsythia?
Oh, no, that's truckweed.
Oh.
I still call it that because you called it that. Because you used to pull it out with the truck. No, a Bradford pear.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because they break.
So these ones, our house we bought here was just littered with them, and they all broke. And the last one that wasn't broke, I just cut it down. So I took all the branches and weaved them in and out of these posts, and then all the little sticks and stuff, weaved them in until it was 6 feet high and 30 feet long. And it was a natural fence.
Oh,
when you
that's
looked at
great.
it from the street, it looked like you were looking it almost looked like it was photoshopped from the street, because it didn't look like a fence. It looked like there was a patch of woods right there in my yard.
Is that called a wattle? It's an English word for that. There's an English word for that kind of fence.
It's like oh gosh.
Someone's yelling at their radio right now.
Yeah, there's another video I watched on where the guys, they cut down the bushes to make a fence around cows and stuff, and they'll whack them down and stick them down on the ground, and they grow back up. Anyway, this fence really started to degrade over the years, and I'd add to it, and it just kept sinking towards the ground, and it got to look bad. So I tore it all down and burned it up, and then put in brand new posts and went to the orange store and got some fence panels. So fence panels are 8 feet long, right?
Yep.
So I put in the posts 8 feet apart and set them in concrete. Came back the next day to tack them up and realized that you can't just put the posts 8 feet apart.
No. And you put them in cement.
I put them in cement, yeah. So when I got to the second panel, I realized, wow, the third panel is not going to have anything to stick to. So I had to scab another piece onto that piece and then attach the fence to that. When I got to the last one, I had to scab 3 pieces onto that last post to attach it to.
Oops.
Looks fantastic from the street. You would never know. And I've got a lot of compliments that I tore down that ugly thing. And this looks beautiful, but that's my tip right there. Done is better than perfect, but the next one will be a little less headache.
Yeah, that's where measure twice comes in handy. Yeah, because it's an 8-foot fence. It's a timber fence, but actually is it a 4x4 or 2x4 that's on each end of that fence is set in slightly on and it's not right on the edge of the fence width.
Yeah, and if you set one of them up at I started it, I put the fence all the way out at the edge of the 4x4.
Yeah.
Which automatically started it up short. And the next one just got worse and worse. So if my fence was, twice as long, I would have had to tear it all down and redo it. But I just forged through.
And it's done.
It is done. It is done. And a little hint, if you put up a fence and you've got a big mess underneath of it where you put it, go get some mulch and throw underneath of it immediately. The thicker, the better. And you won't be one of those people that's got a fence that's stained 3 foot up with mud.
Yeah.
Like my other fence.
But you made your neighbors happy, so that's good.
Yeah. And, good, decent fences make okay neighbors. That's what I say.
All right, so where can people find you, sir?
Well, they can look for the Book Guys podcast, and maybe we'll show up again.
But you have a whole back catalog people could listen to.
Oh, yeah. Some interesting people over the years, and you hear all the different hosts that have came through. Maybe you can even find the one with Eric from GardenFork.
Yeah, Book Guys.
Yeah.
And then you also have your Hollow Book Company.
Yeah, you can go to hollowbooks.com, and we'll carve a hole in a book for you to hide something or put a wedding gift in, anything you want. Right now, I'm actually doing 22 books for an artist that's in Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah, these books are from 1882 to 1895. They're old Portuguese. They're like dictionaries, I guess, but like a dictionary / encyclopedia.
Huh.
One of them, I tore out some art, and it has a hand-drawn picture of what they thought in 1896, the best they could tell that Saturn looked like. So that's pretty interesting. This guy, he works with light, and he's putting some LCD light panels inside of them to turn them into some kind of art he's going to sell for goodness knows. This is the second batch I've done for him. I did some for him a year ago, so he must have sold them all.
Wow, we're in the wrong business.
Yeah, I'm sure he's making probably more off one book than I'm making hauling them all out for him.
All right. Well, it's always great to have you and hear from you, sir. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, I look forward to the next one.